a crisis point. Very essential things don't happen until there's an absolute need for them to happen. So you can say, in the past, this awakening has been a luxury, and only a few individuals here and there throughout the ages were able to be awakened. And they tried to teach others, but to a large extent, their teachings became misinterpreted. So we are awakening now.
Jesus was a revolutionary.
Yes.
Who got misinterpreted a lot.
Yes. We are awakening now because we have to awaken if humanity is to make it to a next evolutionary level. We need to awaken because the egoic consciousness will become has already become very destructive. It will become more and more destructive. We will destroy ourselves and the planet if we do not step out of the egoic consciousness, the collective ego. If you look at the history of the 20th century, it gives you a taste of what it will be if there is no major shift. I wrote in The Power of Now that 100 million human beings were killed by other humans during the 20th century through warfare and so on. And I recently read in a history book by a Harvard professor that my figure was much too low. It's as much as 160 to 180 million human beings were murdered through warfare and concentration camps and prison camps and starvation, manufactured starvation because China, Russia, and so on. It's unbelievable insanity when you look at that history. And so if there's no shift in consciousness, we will go downhill very quickly because we're already in the process of destroying the planet, but there will also be continuous conflict, collective conflict, and eventually then humanity would collapse.
So you think we're at a crisis point now?
Crisis point, yes.
Well, Ryan, don't you think so too? I mean, when you were with your friends, you know, obviously you're gathered here at Borders tonight because you are interested in this way of thinking, but we all talk about it in some form or another, how bad things are, how, you know, the media, everybody complains about the media and the movies. I mean, if you just look at the Academy Awards this year and the kinds of movies that were made this year, and it's all a reflection of who we are. And you say in the book how we're the species that will go and watch other people on film be maimed and killed and murdered for our entertainment.
Yes. Yes, it's amazing.
It's noise. It's all it's the mind. It's all of that. And my friends and I talk about it, and it's things where we want to push that out and say, well, we choose not to look at those things. We choose not to surround ourselves with that type of energy.
But I just got it. I just had an epiphany, an aha, as Eckhardt was speaking here. I mean, and I'd read this several times in the book too. The number of people murdered, maimed, destroyed by other human beings during the 20th century, but the aha for me was, yes, look at what we did in the 20th century. Look at the surge that we've had in our technological abilities. Look at you right now. We're Skyping each other. The advancement in our abilities to create new bombs, new ways of killing each other, so that in the 21st century, if there isn't a shift, if you had over 100 million people killed in the 20th century, God only knows, and I do mean God only knows what will happen to us unless we start to change this.
Yes, because technology amplifies the egoic dysfunction in human beings. So before, the dysfunction was the same 2,000 years ago, but we couldn't do that much harm because the technology wasn't there. The very same dysfunction still operates and becomes magnified through science and technology.
Does that answer your question, Ryan?
It does, and it just makes me think of what could we do if we just focused that same energy on the positive and helping other people, and I feel that that's where we're going.
But it's also not just the positive. One of the things that I think we all learn from reading A New Earth, that it's not just about being positive, it's about putting our own egos in check. Because as we begin to move forward in our studies the next 10 weeks, you'll see that first you have to see the voice in your head, see how you're contributing to it. Because I think you know, for years we've all heard that we're all, if you're not a part of the problem, you're a part of the solution. I think most of us don't understand, and I did understand to an extent, but got it even more clearly after reading A New Earth, understand how we're contributing to the problem. And the way we're all contributing to the problem is, Eckhardt?
Well, you need to look at your own mind. So it's everybody's responsibility to become aware of their conditioned mental processes, how you react in everyday situations, what kind of thoughts go through your head. It's good to not amplify the negativity that you see around you in the world by reacting to it. You have to be very much aware, of course, of what your mind is doing. So observe your own mind, be there as the witness of your mind, so that the witnessing dimension, which is awareness or presence, grows. You are not your thought processes. The thought processes are conditioned through thousands and thousands of years of conditioning. And there is dysfunction built into the very structure of our thought processes, and this is how the ego arises. We'll talk about that in more detail.
That's right.
But to recognize in oneself, you may not contribute to the murder and so on out there in the world, but it's everybody's responsibility to discover that dysfunction within them.
Yeah, so you get that right, Ryan. What he's saying is that there is a collective consciousness that he talks about, pages 11 and 12. The dysfunction of the egoic human mind has created the situation in the world today, he says in A New Earth. And what I hear you saying, Eckhardt, is that our individual fears, doubts, angers, jealousies, resentments all contribute to the collective.
Yes.
And so in order to begin to change the collective, each one of us has a responsibility to sort of mine that within ourselves.
Yes.
Because that's how we're contributing to the collective.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not just the road ragers. It's however you're holding resentment and anger and jealousy and fear in your own life. That's what you're saying.
Yes. What is it that you're putting out into the world? Is there negativity, mental, emotional, in you?
Yes.
Because that contributes to the collective energy field. So you can only go, so it's up to the individual to step out of the egoic consciousness.
Yeah. You got that right, Ryan?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.